Hi guys, welcome back to another Hugh Jeffreys video. In this video, I'm going to be restoring this beaten up iPhone 5s I purchased for $20 off of eBay and see if I can make a profit if I was to sell the device after the repairs. While repairing your phone is great, many people flip repaired devices to make money. So, can you make any profit off of fixing up an older iPhone such as the iPhone 5s? Well, let's find out. Upon checking listings on eBay, most good condition iPhone 5s models range between 100 and 150 Australian dollars as of making this video. So we definitely got a bargain on the phone itself, but let's take a look at the phone to see what it needs in terms of repairing. The power button isn't functioning correctly and needs to be pressed really hard to work. While you could just replace the power button, the housing itself is destroyed with major dents and scratches. So if we want to get as much for this device as possible, I will need a new housing. The battery also has over 1,100 cycles on it, so that will also need to be replaced. The housing I purchased for $27 with the device's IMEI number printed on it and all the small parts already installed. So it's time to crack open the iPhone and get to work. I'll need to remove the Apple specific pentalobe screws, install a suction cup puller on the display and insert a pick between the display and frame so I can separate the two. Thankfully, this display isn't cracked, so we won't have to replace it, which will save us some money. Being careful when lifting up the display to first disconnect the Touch ID cable, and just like that, we're inside the phone. Now all we need to do is disconnect the battery to make sure there's no power running through the phone, disconnect the LCD bracket, and disconnect the flex cables for the display. With the display removed, we can dig deeper inside the phone. As mentioned earlier, I opted for a housing with the small parts included, as I have had issues in the past with housings not made to the correct dimensions, causing things such as volume buttons and charging ports not to fit properly. Ordering with these parts installed ensures the housing is properly built. In addition, this route is also much easier than a completely empty housing. I will remove my charging port and install it in the new housing as it's an original part that's still working. It is a little dirty inside the connector, so I'll get some cleaning alcohol and clean it as best I can. With that ready to go, I'm going to remove the logic board from the phone. There is many screws holding this in place, including one hidden one at the top of the board. I'll also need to disconnect the flex cables, make sure that the SIM card tray has been removed, and I can flip it over and disconnect the antenna. Next, I'm going to tackle the camera and remove that from the frame. Now that we've got everything removed, it's time to come across to the new frame and reinstall everything. Now, I am going to install my old dock connector in, and here's why. Taking out the speaker, you can see they've clearly missed the antenna which goes on top. Furthermore, I'm going to take out the charging port assembly fully so we can get a good look and compare it to our original one. You can see here that it looks quite dicey, it's got some markings on it, and it's actually quite dirty. Flipping it over though, you can see the real difference underneath. You can see the original one here on the right has this grounding bracket. The left one here doesn't have that. So I'm going to be using my old original one as I know it works and it's an original part. So I can reinstall it into the new frame and install its appropriate screws. To test the alignment, you can insert a charger. I'm using a genuine one, as you can see by the fact that the rubber is disintegrating. Now I'm going to come to the top of this housing because I've noticed something. There seems to be this little bit of protective plastic underneath the microphone piece. And sure enough, someone didn't remove this before inserting the microphone. So if I had left this in place, the microphone for the rear camera would have been blocked. So it's clear that you want to make sure that you check your replacement housing and make sure that all the parts are correctly installed and there is nothing missing. With everything good to go, I can reinstall the logic board, making sure it is seated properly, and connect up all of its flex cables, install a fresh piece of adhesive underneath this flex cable for the volume and power button, and then I can install the camera back into the iPhone 5s. Next up, I'll install the range of different screws back holding in the logic board. Now I did miss a small little bracket, so I'll need to swap over to the old housing and transfer that little small bracket up top to the new frame. Once we get those two screws in, I can install the little piece of plastic that goes over top of that and install the SIM card tray. It's time to install some new adhesive for that battery, and I'm not going to go with the traditional iPhone 5S adhesive, which is hard to remove, likely to snap, and will result in a lot of prying to get that battery out if it ever needs to be replaced. So I'm going to use some iPhone 5 adhesive and install our new replacement battery, which I picked up for $9. It's time to get that screen installed, but you can see it is absolutely filthy. So we're going to give the edges of this screen a clean with some cleaning alcohol to remove as much of that gunk as possible. As you can see, afterwards, it is looking much cleaner and is ready to be reinstalled. Connecting up the display's 3 flex cables, we can then connect up a battery and give this phone a test. It didn't turn on at first, and that was just due to a completely dead flat battery, but after a short charge, you can see the power button is now functioning flawlessly, along with all the other functions of the phone. So I'm going to lift up the display and reinstall the brackets for the battery and display. With those screws installed, we can lower the display panel down and connect up the Touch ID ribbon cable and its metal bracket. With all that in place, it is time to install the display panel to the new frame, and to do that, I'm going to start at the top and then move down to the bottom, making sure those 2 bits are pressed in before the sides. This will just ensure the display is correctly aligned at both the top and bottom. Reinstalling the 2 pentalobe screws, I can remove the protective film from the back of the Apple logo, install a tempered glass screen protector, and we're done. So this is it, a fully functional, good condition iPhone 5S. The only flaw with this phone is a faint yellow border on the LCD panel. This is extremely common on the 5S and is caused by the glue between the LCD and glass. As the display itself isn't cracked, it's not worth replacing. This is a 16GB unit on iOS 10.2.1. So you're probably wondering, was this all worth it? The phone itself costs $20, the battery $9, and the housing $27, so that brings our total to $56. And based on the listings I saw on eBay, my estimated profit would range between 44 and 94 Australian dollars. While this isn't the latest phone, many people are looking for a more affordable phone to do basic tasks. Newer phones such as the iPhone X and most flagship Samsungs have OLED displays, resulting in very high repair costs. And even though this phone is now 6 years old, if purchased at the right price, you could make a little bit of profit off of fixing one up. Although I would also look at the iPhone 6 and 6S as they're worth more but can cost significantly more to buy broken. In the end, it all depends on what you're willing to spend. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the phone restoration playlist for more videos just like this one. Also, make sure to follow me on my social media, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.